Good day everyone, I am Anna Feliz R11. So I'm going to tackle about the right to board aircraft, overbooking by airlines, and obligations of the carrier in case of overbooking. So first, we have the right to board aircraft. So this section outlines the general right of a passenger to board a flight for which they have checked in, with the specific exceptions. So if a passenger checked in a particular flight has the right to board the aircraft for the purpose of flight, except. So generally, once you have confirmed booking and have checked in, you have the right to board the aircraft for your intended flight. So this right is based on your contract with the airline. So, like for example, see, let's just say Mrs. Hoyno, nag-book siya of flight 9 a.m. and then 9 a.m. which is yung flight is Manila to Cebu. And then she checked in 8 a.m. So she has generally have the right to board the flight because mao na ilahang kuan sa airport, which the flight is 9, then siya ni arrive siya 8. So dili siya late, so dili siya mabiyaan sa airplane. So there are 4 exceptions right to board aircraft. So first, when there are immigration issues. Second is safety and security. Third is health concerns, and the fourth one is non-appearance at the boarding gate at the appointed boarding time. So first, there are immigration issues. So if a passenger's travel documents is not valid or do not meet the requirements of their destination country, the airlines is obligated to prevent them from boarding to avoid penalties upon arrival. So let's just say if Mrs. Hoyno is like travel sa Philippines to Japan, and then ang iyahang passport is expired na, so she can be denied boarding by the airline. So dili siya maka-flight to Japan. Then the second one is safety and security. Airlines have the right to refuse boarding to passengers who pose a safety or security risk. So this can include visible intoxicated, behaving disruptively, refusing to comply with safety regulations, or being suspected or carrying prohibited items. So let's just say, for example, si Mr. Mabansag is naa siya para siya ning board na, then di ba na man ay mag-check sa baggage. So if kana mas kana na naman ay makano nagdaba ka mga like mga hait nga mga butang, like for example knife, for example siya kada siya og knife kay ang bag, and then na scan siya, she can or he can be denied not to board on that flight. It's because of the safety and security of that airlines. It's for the good for sa tuang mga passengers. So the third one is the health concerns. So if a passenger has a contagious disease that could pose a risk to other passengers, or if their medical condition could be aggravated by flying with a proper medical clearance, the airline may deny boarding. So like for example, sa katong COVID-19 bitaw, kung si Miss Piquero mo travel siya from Philippines to Japan, and then CJ is wala CJ mga quarantine pass, mga requirements bitaw sa katunay COVID pa. Was a quarantine pass, vaccination card, and then was CJ medical certificate from the government. She may be denied boarding. So during a flu, during a flu outbreak, a passenger exhibited super flu like sa COVID lagi, and then she might be denied boarding to prevent the spread of the virus. It's for the safety po na siya sa mga passengers and also the crew sa airlines. The last one is the non-appearance at the boarding gate at the appointed boarding time. So airlines have a specific boarding times and passengers are expected to be at the gate by that time. So failure to do so can result in denied boarding as the airline needs to finalize passenger counts and prepare for departure. So if boarding, like let's just say for example si Mr. Hamilo, if iyang boarding time is 9 a.m. in the morning, 1 a.m. flight, and then he arrived at 8:30 a.m. So, nasa joyride mo board that time, mo board to that flight, it's because he is early 30 minutes right before the like boarding time. So, if, like for example, si Jia yung boarding time is 9 a.m. and then si Jia ni abot is 9:30. So, nabiyan na dyan si Jia sa aeroplano, dili naman po si Jia ang passengers na huwaton. Diba? So, like mo arrive ka to late, so then the gate is closed na. So, he could deny you for that boarding flight. So, for the second one is the overbooking by airlines. So, this section explains the practice of overbooking. So, overbooking is the practice by air carriers of selling confirmed reserved space beyond the actual seat capacity of the aircraft. So, overbooking is a common practice in the airline industry. Airlines sell more tickets than the actual number of seats available on flight. They do this based on historical data and statistical analysis, anticipating that certain numbers of passengers will not show up for their flights. So the goal is to maximize revenue by ensuring that as many seats as possible are filled. So for example, an airline knows that the average 10 out of 150 passengers on a particular Manila to Davao flight don't show up. So to account for this, they might sell 155 tickets for the 150 available seats. So if on a particular day all 155 ticket passengers arrive, so this results in an overbooked flight. So we have here obligations of the carrier in case of overbooking. So this section outlines the responsibilities of the airline when a flight is overbooked or there are more passengers than available seats. So the air carrier shall determine the number of passengers in excess of the actual seat capacity of the aircraft. So when a flight is overbooked, the airline needs to identify how many extra passengers they have beyond the aircraft capacity. So this is the first step in managing the situation. So for example, if a plane has 100 seats and 105 passengers have checked in, so overbooked si Jack, kailan pa si Jack. So present at that gate, so 105 ang present to that boarding flight. Then the airlines knows how they have excess the passengers. So, mas nila ang ay buhaton. Meet ba si Jack sa requirements sa airline? So, B is the airline carrier shall announce that the flight is overbooked and that is looking for volunteer willing to give up their seats in exchange for air carrier compensation. So, ano sa musod? O kung sa buhaton sa airline. So, the airline's initial approach is usually to ask for volunteers who are willing to take a later flight in exchange for compensation. So, this compensation can include things like vouchers for future travel, hotel accommodation if an overnight stay is required, and then meals and something cash. So, let's just have examples. So, if the flight or if the gate agent might make an announcement. So, like for example, ang agent is mo announce na sa passengers na. So, ang kaning flight is to Cebu is currently overbooked. So, mo announce sila nga kinsay willing mo take the other flight which is kanang for sa sunod nga flight diha. Mo volunteers like they could take the later flight, and then if ang 9 mo volunteers will receive a travel voucher worth for 5,000 and a meal voucher. So, nara po na sa passengers o gadali ba sila or wala, then ang katong wala magdali, if mo volunteer sila nga mo take sa next flight, they will receive that compensation. And then the third one is The air carrier shall provide the interested passengers or volunteers a list of amenities and offers, which list of amenities shall always include the option to be given priority booking in the next flight with available seats, or to be endorsed to another air carrier upon consent of any fare difference, and provided that accommodation at the option of the passengers or a cash incentive. So when seeking volunteers, the airline must clearly inform them about the compensation they will receive. So this should include options like being prioritized in the next available flight, and then potentially a cash incentive. The passengers gets to choose which option they prefer, provided if feasible. Right, for example, a volunteer might be offered priority boarding on the next flight to their destination departing in 2 hours. So a transfer to a flight on a partner airline departing an hour later with the original airline covering an extra cost. And then like a Philippine peso 3,000 cash voucher for future travel on the airline, the volunteer can then choose the option that best suits their needs. So, ang katong ni volunteer, nagitagan sila 3 ka-options, what options they would choose. So, naroon na sa katong ni volunteer kung silang pilion. They would choose to that 3. And then, the 4th one is, in case the number of volunteers is not enough to resolve the overbooking, the air carrier shall increase the compensation package by certain degrees or by adding more amenities or services until the required number of volunteers is met. So if not enough passengers volunteer initially, the airline is obligated to increase the incentives to encourage more people to give up their seats. So para maka-flight na po sila. So this could involve offering higher value vouchers, better flight options, hotel stays, or larger cash payments. So sa 5 dadto nga na-exist, then duha or tulo ray ni sugot. So what will they do? So ang ilang buhaton is more raise ay ilahang erase ang katong ilahang compensation to that to the passengers para masugot sila. So if only 2 volunteers or if only 3 volunteers come forward when 5 are needed, the gate agent might announce an increased offer. So mga sila nga, we now offer a travel voucher in worth 8,000, diba? 3,000 naman to, so ilagay mo 8,000 para na ay sugot nga passengers nga ilang give up to ilahang flight. So, plus complimentary hotel stays for anyone willing to take the next flight. So, this increased compensation aims to attract the remaining needed volunteers. So, multi ilang way how to solve that problem. So, in summary, passengers really have the right to board a flight they've checked in for. This right is to subject to certain exceptions. So it only explains the airline practice of overbooking and details the obligations of the airline to passengers when flight is overbooked. So primarily focusing on seeking volunteers and compensating them for giving up to their seats.